All right, I'm in the session. Let's see how this works. My moderator panel. Welcome, everybody. I'm sure everyone's still getting down on what's happening with today's events. So I'll give people a couple minutes and then I'm going to do a quick run through of some cool XD stuff. I've got my party earrings on. I got my Zoomers on. I'm ready to go. If you want to chat during this session, you can just click on the session versus event chat there on the side right-hand panel. Hop in. You can send me some questions while we're doing this. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a couple more minutes here for people to join. Hey, hi Jonathan. Thanks for the wave. Thanks for joining my session. Excited to talk about XD. All right, getting some more folks hopping in, AKA hop in, the theme of the day. All right, I'll start sharing my screen. So let's do this. Okay, I'm going to minimize this. I might not see you folks for a minute as we go through here. So take your designs to the next level with Adobe XD. Dun, 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 dun. Fancy. Okay, so who am I? I'm Jamie Nuzbech. I'm a strategic development manager for Adobe. I do all kinds of workshops and great stuff all the time. I'm happy to be here today to show you a couple cool tips and tricks in XD and the time that we have. So real quick, I want to check back. You're going to see me infinitively. Okay, good. You guys are on there. You can see me. If you can't see me, put a note in there and I'll check back, but I'm going to assume you guys can see me. So XD is a really great platform for creating digital experiences for all different types of screen sizes. It can be for a mobile app, it could be a game, it could be a voice interface, it can be whatever you want there. So a couple things that you need to know is that it has a lot of cross-platform integration. So you might be familiar designing with Illustrator, Photoshop, or Sketch, right? Well, we can actually open those files right in XD. So if you've made a design in Illustrator, so here's an Illustrator file. It has .ai here at the top. I can actually just drag this file right onto XD, and it's going to open this Illustrator file for me. And what's cool is it's going to maintain all of the characteristics of that file. So I have the fill color, the shape, everything that was designed in Illustrator comes right in here. I even have the font that I was using, and I can start creating my prototype or share this through XD. So that's one way. So we can open it up in Illustrator. But I'm sure a lot of you have done this before, and I know before I was using XD, I was designing in Photoshop. So I have a Photoshop file here with multiple artboards on it, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to take your Photoshop file, just like Illustrator, and open that right in XD. So XD is thinking, it's processing it, and as you know, XD is part of the Adobe Creative Cloud. So we have this awesome capability and cross-platform functionality with so many of our tools, and Photoshop being the main one. So now I'm here, and I'm able to pan and zoom into my file here. I can actually click on things and move them around. So everything I made in Photoshop and those artboards came in. Even the names of the artboards followed me through into XD. So one thing you cannot do in Photoshop is prototype. Same with Illustrator. So this is where we would start to do that prototyping process. So last but not least, I want to show you a sketch file. So Sketch is a very common tool. It's been around for quite some time, but it has some limitations too. Just like Photoshop and Illustrator, you can't prototype in Sketch right now. So I'm just going to drag this Sketch file right into my Adobe XD. And here we go. It's taking that Sketch file and it's processing it. And wow, it just opens it right here in XD. And again, my design is still intact. All of these things that I've made, I can actually click on and continue to do my work here in XD. So this is a great way for us to be able to to start to prototype and take our projects to the next level. When I say next level, what I mean is like, if you're doing it in Illustrator, Photoshop, or Sketch, it's static. They're just screen designs. There's no connectivity between them. They just kind of are there. So the next level I'm talking about is to make these things a prototype, make them animate, make them have interactions come together. Okay, so let's go over the interface here in XD real quick. We have our properties panel here on the right, which is going to be where all the action happens. We have a canvas with artboards, and artboards are just representations of screens. So this looks like a mobile screen to me. It's about the same size as like my phone right here. So that's what that means. We have a toolbar on the side, and we have some icons here at the bottom. We might not get too much into that today, but we have our assets, our layers, and plugins, okay? Let me just show you all the plugins. There we go. And then at the top, the most important thing about XD are these three things right here. Design, prototype, and share, folks. Yes, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where you slice the bread. This is where you cut the mustard. This is what makes XD different than other tools that you might have tried or used. It's an all-in-one solution where you can do designing, you can actually create interactivity, and then you can share this sucker with anybody that you want. It's amazing. So let's get started. Let's do a couple cool things. I'll show you some features in XD. So I noticed here that we have a calendar thing that we designed in Sketch. Well, I'm going to change this and make this like this 6th. I'm going to make this the 8th. And the idea is with this design is that I want to be able to scroll between these dates as a card. Well, XD just launched a really cool feature called scroll groups. So I'm going to click on this group. I'm going to make sure it's highlighted. You see some of the cards are off to the side. I'm going to come over to my properties panel and engage horizontal scrolling. It's this icon here underneath the dimensions and the info card. So I'm going to turn it on and like that. That's it. No, you didn't miss it. No, it's not more complicated than that. It literally is just one click. It's so great. Now, we got handlebars. Don't panic. What does that mean? Well, it's basically there to show what would be the viewport size of this scrollable area. Like, what do I want to be able to see? So I can adjust that. If I didn't want to be able to see these two cards on the side, I can go like that. But I think XD did a good job for me, and I want people to know there's more to see on the left and right. So I'm going to leave it like that. So now we've already added our first element of interactivity. So let's preview it by opening up this preview window here. And now I'm going to scroll back and forth between these cards. You guys, we just up-leveled our design big time with one click. Can you believe it? Wow, look at this. So cool that you can do that, you know, so easily. You don't need to be a mastermind genius in XD. You just need to know how to click a button and move some things side to side, and you've made interactivity. Another cool tool, tip, a feature in XD that I like is something called stacks. So we have all these different cards here, and say for some reason we want to reorder these. Before, you'd have to ungroup them and drag these things up and down, and that takes time. And the thing about XD is that we want you to move fast. We want to be able to design like the speed of light, like lightning fast. So we built things to make you design faster. That's the goal, right? We don't want to spend a bunch of time doing things that should be really easy to do, like moving a card up and down. So over here on the properties panel, I have something called stack. I'm going to check that box, and XD's done a pretty good job of understanding which direction my stack is going. It is vertical, so that's correct. So when I come back to my design, and let's say we want to start with 13 at the top, oh goodness, look at this. I'm just literally moving these cards in a different order, and the other cards are respecting that spatial relationship of that card, giving that card its space, and moving and getting out of the way. Now we just reordered those cards in a different structure. We're going now from the 13 to 16 versus the other way around, like that. So stacks is huge. That's so amazing. Another way that we integrate with other tools is Photoshop. So you're using images when you're designing. That's very common. You know, obviously we're going to have some images here that we're working with. So I have this image of this girl here, and let's say I wanted to make an edit to it. All I need to do is right click on this image, and I get the option to edit it in Photoshop. Now, I'm not going to show you the whole workflow here, but the idea is that you would open in Photoshop, you can make your changes, you would save that, and it saves back down into your XD file. All of these images in XD are 4K, which is amazing, so that you're able to have high-res images throughout your design. Also, we have this really great plugin that I'm going to talk to you about for stock images. So Adobe Stock. So thinking about how XD is cross-platform, how XD takes your designs to the next level, we integrate with Stock. So this is an Adobe Stock plugin. You can connect it to your account. You can search. So we're going to search maybe beach. And it's going to pull up stock photos from Adobe Stock that we can place into our designs. So we have, let's select this square here. And maybe we want to replace it with another image. We can apply that image. And it's going to drop in a low-res image for me of that. Oops, I think it's because I have this selected. There. So now I have my new beach image in my design, just like that. And that's pulling and integrating with Adobe Stock. So super huge that XD has all these ways that you can integrate with other tools. You don't have to have different software, download different software. You can just do this all together. All right, so we've made this design, and a key thing of the design process is being able to reuse elements. So we have this thing called an assets panel over here, and really quickly I'm going to show you how you can add colors. So this blue seems to be a main color that I'm going to use throughout my design. So I'm going to select that blue, make sure I'm all the way in here so they know I'm in blue because I have the fill color here showing. And I'm going to add it to my assets panel because I want to reuse this blue a lot. So I'm going to hit the plus button that says add color, and boom, that color has been added now to my panel. Well, I don't want to do this all individually. That seems like it's going to take a long time. So I can just select my entire artboard and add all of those colors like that from that artboard with one click. So now what's really cool is if we take a look here at the design, and you see that this blue has been used in a lot of places. Well, what if we decide to change that blue? Oops, I'm going to unselect the artboard. Well, we just need to right click here, hit edit, and now watch what happens to this blue. Everywhere it's used, you can now control this as a main color, and it's going to change all the times you've used it in your design with one in the assets panel with one little click. So you guys, so great, so easy, such a great way to stay organized while you're designing. You can do the same thing with fonts. We're going to go ahead and add a few. You see that it's telling me which fonts are missing from the sketch document, so I'd have to load those. But speaking of fonts, Adobe XD has an integration also with Adobe Fonts. So if we go to our desktop app, you can see something here called Manage Fonts. And when I click on that, you can see all the fonts that I have already activated that I can use across my Creative Cloud. But let's say I want to add a new font. So I'm going to hit Browse Fonts. Ooh, it's asking me to sign. Oh, we'll do this later. You can browse fonts, and you can actually turn on different fonts and have them activate right away, and you'll be able to use them. Adobe Fonts is great. It's a huge resource of fonts. You know, other platforms might only give you the Google fonts to use, but having real fonts and access to these and being able to preview them here just with one click is super powerful. So another way we integrate across all of our Adobe applications. And not only that, this icon here in the corner helps you open Creative Cloud libraries. So if you made a logo in Illustrator, you can actually save it here. So let's take a look at this one I made for Compass. You can use these colors, character styles, and components right from your library. So let's say I want this image. I can just simply drag this out from my library. Maybe I saved it there from Photoshop as a central source. I can now use these things in my XD file, and actually can save them too from my XD file into a library as well. So now we've talked about colors and character styles, but there's this little guy here who's feeling left out at the bottom called components. How do components work? Why do I care about components? What's the big deal with them? Well, when we're talking about up-leveling your designs and taking these things to the next level, you want to be able to do what you would do in a real app. You want to create a real-to-life experience. Why do we do that? Why do we want it to feel realistic? Well, that's because we want to create an emotional response from our users and find out what their frustration points are if our solution is working, right? This is part of the role of doing UX, is solving the problem. So here on this screen here for the different setups that you can have, there is this cool little toggle button. We made it in Sketch, we brought it into XD, and now this is something that is really cool about XD. It's something called component states. So I'm going to ungroup this so I can just get this little toggle. So components and component states, making our designs more realistic, adding interactivity, creating prototypes. So I'm going to go ahead, just like I added my colors and my character styles, I'm going to add a component. So this is the toggle. I can rename it if I want to. So we can add all of these things, basically anything I want to reuse over and over again. So because I made this a component, it now has the indicator of the green diamond. That means it's a main component. So over here in the properties panel, we have the component states area. And we're going to hit plus, and we're going to add a new state, you guys. And we're just name it the off state or deselected, turned off. The blue looks on to me, so we're going to make the off state. So now that this blue highlight is an off, I'm going to come back to my component and make some changes to it. So for example, I don't want this to be bright blue if it's off. I want it to look off. So I'm going to make it gray. And I'm going to take this little dot and I'm going to move it over to the other side to indicate that the toggle is now switched to off. So when we come back to this component, you can see by clicking to these states on the side here in the properties panel, things have changed. I have two different versions now of this toggle within the same component. So that's awesome. That's really keeping my file more organized. I don't need to make a whole new artboard to show what the off state looks like. But what's even better is that I can switch to prototype mode. This will be the first time we're doing a prototype wire. And I can connect these states together with an interaction. What does that mean? It sounds so complicated. It's not complicated. It basically is saying we can animate this thing. We can make it move by connecting the off state to the on state. One click on the wire to make a little tail. What happens now in our properties panel is that it lights up with the things I need to make this interactive. So the trigger, you guys, what does a trigger mean? Think about it. I want to tap on that toggle, maybe on my mobile device, and that's what I want it to make something happen. That's the thing that starts this all off. The transition is going to be auto animate. And if you haven't tried this out, I highly recommend it. It's really cool. Auto animate is basically Adobe XD's way of interpreting the difference between two things and making it like magically morph. So we're going to choose that. Now it says I can choose an artboard or a state. Okay. So I'm going to choose the off state. You can choose what type of easing, and this is just like if it like rolls up or like bounces or snap's good. And then how long we want it to happen. So that looks good to me. So not only do I want to be able to turn this toggle off, I want to turn it back on from the off state. So I'm going to go to off. I'm going to make a tail. It's going to remember what I set for last time. I just put it to default state. And we are good to go. So we've just made, you guys, an interaction like that. So let's try it. So I'm going to preview this artboard, and I'm now going to be able to actually click and turn this toggle on and off. So components and component states are super cool, super awesome. Another way you can totally up level your game. Okay, so we covered, Adobe stock. We covered CC libraries. We covered integrating with Adobe fonts. We looked and learned how to make a component state, how stacks works and scrollable groups. We are now ready to start doing some more prototyping. So I have a flow down here, and we're just going to start to connect this all together. And I'm going to show you how easy it is to take these static screens and make them dazzle. All right, so we're going to go down. I'm going to connect this. I'm in prototype mode at the top. I'm going to select this central image, and I'm going to drag a wire, see this blue line, until I highlight the artboard next door. I'm going to release it. I'm going to switch this just to a basic transition, maybe just a basic ease in out, and that's it. And then I'm going to say when you click on the calendar here, it's going to go to the entry page. Oh, I don't have anything here, so I'm going to actually add one with this pencil tool. I want to be able to add an entry, so I'm going to write one. I'm going to connect that here. And what's kind of cool here is look at this. I can actually add, this icon for the weather. I'm going to connect that down here to the weather picker. And then when I hit cancel, I'm going to make that go back to there because, if I don't want to change it, that's the right weather. And there you go. We have, some sort of flow happening here. It's pretty cool. So let's test it out. So I just dragged a few wires. And now automatically you can see that this feels more realistic, right? I'm able to actually click through this like I would actually engage with a real digital product. That's huge when you're designing. That's a big deal. So the next big deal, though, is being able to share this with, users to get feedback, stakeholders to get approvals, and a developer to actually make this real. So I'm going to toggle to share mode. Whoa, 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 whoa. All of these are highlighted blue. This looks like madness. It's like a Christmas tree. I only want to share those things I just prototyped. What the heck? Okay, I'll show you how. We're going to go back to prototype mode. And I'm going to select this icon here on my artboard that has this little house. And when I do that, it gives me the option to name this as a flow. What's a flow? A flow is any series of artboards that have been wired together. So now when I go to share mode, cool. Now just that flow of those artboards are an option for me to share. So that's called multiple flows. You can have multiple home artboards with different flows, with different names, depending on what it is you want to share. So in the properties panel, we have some options for how we can share this. We can do design review, for development, for a presentation, and even user testing. We can customize it. You can determine the preferences here of how you want this to work. And what's going to happen is in the background, Adobe is going to create a link. So it's going to generate this link. This URL is available for anyone. They don't even need to have XD. So that's pretty cool. So I can copy this link. If you make any changes, that link stays the same. You can just update that link with the changes based on the feedback that you got. So let's paste in this link and see what we get. All right, so now we have this really cool clickable prototype here, all in a browser view. We can leave comments. You can browse through here. This is an amazing way to share with people. You can even extend it to be full screen. So this is an awesome way to be able to share your work with others around you. So folks, I'm coming back into the hop-in. I'm going to stop sharing because it's going to be like an infinite thing. And I hope that you guys were able to enjoy that brief session. I'm going to answer some of the questions in the chat. So if you have a question about what I just showed you, please put them in the chat and let me see how I can do. All right, so can you enlarge the screen on my end on this platform. Oh, I hope that my zooming in worked. I know the UI on XD can be pretty small, so it's not, I apologize for that.
It actually, we fixed that. So just so you know, in the future, if you are presenting, all they have to do is your screen and it will make it full size. So we figured.
Thank you, Liz. Okay, perfect. So it's a matter of the double clicking. Okay, perfect. Yeah. All right. So how do you decide screen size while designing so that it can use on a mobile screen? Well, this is great. XD has a way for you to use pre-made templates, you guys. So if you go in, the home screen is going to give you options for all the different mobile screens, websites. You can even do a custom screen. So XD does a lot of the heavy lifting for you, and you should be able to just select one of those and start designing. So I know it's difficult because there's like a bazillion, million, quadrillion different devices out there, but don't sweat it. Pick one of the most common ones that XD will give you a template for and start working off that, right? Okay. Any other questions here? All right, so you guys, in 2 minutes, we got to go network. This is, I can't express this enough how important it is to network, and especially today, now in the environment we're in, you can't just randomly bump into people like you used to. So now with Hopin, we can actually meet other people in the same field as us and connect, and it'll be really fun. So I hope to see you guys all there. Join me on plugins, and thank you guys so much.